I want you to picture something for a second. And I don't mean just, visualize it. I want you to really try to hear it. Imagine a melody, just a simple sequence of notes that is so incredibly powerful, so fundamentally earth-shaking, that it reportedly made the Ganges River flow backward.
That is quite an image to kick us off.
Yeah.
Physics just taking a holiday.
Right. And we aren't done. The sources we're looking at today claim this same melody turned wild animals into motionless statues, just froze them in place. We're talking about a sound so compelling that it stopped nature itself in its tracks. And the craziest part, this isn't some new electronic beat or a synthesized frequency developed in some DARPA lab.
No, definitely not.
We are talking about the original viral phenomenon, and I use that word intentionally. We think of viral as a TikTok dance or a meme that lasts for maybe 3 days if you're lucky. But this has been trending for 5,000 years.
It really puts our modern attention span into perspective, doesn't it? When we talk about things going viral today, we're usually talking about a 15-second dopamine hit. But this is a vibration that has sustained its hold on human consciousness for millennia.
So let's introduce the star of the show. Today we are doing a deep dive into the Murali, or as it's more commonly known, the enchanting flute of Sri Krishna.
This is a really special topic because when you look at the source material, the ancient texts, the musicology reports, the art history, it becomes clear very quickly that we aren't just talking about a musical instrument. We aren't just talking about a hollow stick of bamboo.
That distinction is all over the reading. They treat it like a living entity.
The sources describe it as the heartbeat of a civilization. And think about that phrasing. A heartbeat isn't just a noise, it's the involuntary rhythm that keeps an organism alive. It suggests that this sound is what keeps the culture pumping. It connects the ancient temples in Mathura going back thousands of years, all the way to modern-day jazz fusion in a club in London.
That is a massive span of time and style. Yeah. It's hard to wrap your head around one instrument bridging that gap.
It is, and our mission today is to figure out why. We want to explore how a simple piece of hollow bamboo acts as a kind of psychological puzzle.
Psychological puzzle. I actually stopped when I read that. It sounds like something from a thriller movie, not a music history class.
It does, doesn't it? But it fits. This instrument triggers primal emotions and shapes an entire culture's understanding of peace and connection in a way that sort of defies logical explanation.
Okay, so let's try to solve this puzzle. Because the thing that stood out to me immediately in the reading was this massive paradox. We live in an age of high-tech production. I mean, I have an app on my phone right now that can replicate a grand piano, a synthesizer, and a drum kit.
And probably better than most actual instruments, yeah.
Exactly. We have studios that cost millions of dollars to build.
Yeah.
And yet, the source material argues that this simple bamboo flute just cuts through the noise like nothing else. Why? Is it just nostalgia?
See, that's where it gets interesting. The sources actually use a specific term, acoustic nostalgia. But it's not nostalgia for, the good old days. It's scientific.
Acoustic nostalgia. It sounds like a marketing term for a vinyl record shop?
It sounds like it, but it's actually an attempt to explain a biological reaction. The sources mention this term to describe a soul connection the sound creates. The theory is that certain timbres, specifically the organic, breath-heavy sound of bamboo trigger, a kind of cellular memory.
So it's the material itself.
Think about the difference between a modern Western flute and the Indian bansuri. If you pick up a silver flute in a high school band, what are you touching?
Metal and a bunch of keys and buttons.
Right. It's a machine. You press a lever, a pad comes down, and it closes the hole. Oh, it's a mechanism. But with the bansuri, it is just a piece of bamboo with holes burned into it. There are no keys. Your skin touches the wood. Your finger covers the hole directly.
So there's no interface.
Zero interface. It's just breath and skin. And this allows for something called microtones, or shruti, in Indian music. Because you aren't just pressing a button, you can slide your finger half off the hole. You can bend the note in a way a mechanical instrument simply cannot.
That makes sense. It sounds more human.
Precisely. It mimics the human voice, it slides and cries and whispers. So when the source talks about acoustic nostalgia, it's suggesting that humans, regardless of where they are from, are programmed to respond to that organic imperfection.
So you could be in a bustling city like New York, surrounded by concrete and sirens, or you could be in a quiet rural village in India, and the reaction is the same.
The evidence suggests it is. It transcends language and borders. It creates an immediate intimacy. It's baffling to researchers in a way, because why should someone in a skyscraper in Manhattan feel a soul connection to a bamboo stick associated with Indian mythology?
Looks like it bypasses the logical brain entirely.
And that leads to the big question raised in our deep dive material. Is this just physics? Is it just the way air vibrates through a cylindrical tube? Or, as the source suggests, is it a spiritual frequency that humans are universally tuned into?
That's the part that gets me. The idea that we are tuned to it, like we are radios just waiting for this specific broadcast.
It changes how you view music, doesn't it? Not as entertainment, but as a key fitting into a lock.
It does. But let's go deeper into the instrument itself, because there is some heavy philosophy packed into this little bamboo stick. And to be honest, when I first read this section on the philosophy of emptiness, I was a bit skeptical.
Skeptical. How so?
Well, it feels a bit like overanalysis. It's a flute, it has to be hollow or it won't make noise. That's just physics, not theology. Why does the source material make such a big deal out of the fact that it's empty?
That's a fair pushback, but you have to look at it in contrast to other instruments to understand the metaphor. Think about a guitar, or a violin, or a drum. How do you get sound out of them?
You strum them, bow them, or hit them.
You apply tension. You strike something. There is friction. There is impact. A drum makes noise because you hit it. A violin sings because you are dragging horsehair across a string under high tension.
Okay, I see where you're going. It's forceful.
But the flute is wind. It is breath. It represents the only instrument where the sound is produced by the flow of air, not by striking or tension. And the source material draws this beautiful metaphor from that physical reality. The hollowness represents the human ego.
So the flute is the person.
Yes, the flute is you. The flute is me. The idea is that for the divine, in this context, represented by Krishna, to breathe music through us, we have to be empty first.
We have to get out of our own way.
Exactly. But think about how hard that is. In the modern world, we are taught to be full. We fill ourselves with skills, with degrees, with opinions, with our identity. We are solid blocks of wood.
And if you blow air into a solid block of wood,
You get nothing, just silence, maybe a dull thud. If the flute is clogged up with, let's call it internal debris, the air can't pass through. There's no melody.
that is actually a much more striking image when you put it that way. It's not about acquiring more skills or adding more strings. It's about becoming less full of yourself.
It is subtraction, not addition. And this connects to another term the source brought up, which I think answers your skepticism about the physics versus theology debate, the concept of anahata.
The unstruck sound.
Right, the unstruck sound of the universe. The ancient texts argue that all sounds we hear are struck, two things hitting. But the ultimate sound, the cosmic vibration, is anahata. It just is. It flows.
And the flute is the closest physical representation of that.
Exactly. Because it's just breath. It represents that cosmic vibration that flows when there is no resistance, no striking against something. It's the closest representation of that primordial cosmic hum.
So when we hear that flute sound, we aren't just hearing a pretty tune. We're hearing a representation of the universe flowing without resistance.
That is the philosophical claim. And it explains why it feels so different from other music. It's not performing at you, it's flowing through the silence.
This philosophy isn't just stuck in the clouds, though. The source material points out that this actually had a massive impact on the real world, on the culture itself. And I want to dig into this because often we hear about cultural impact, and it's just a footnote. But here, the sources claim the flute actually shaped how Indian art looks and moves.
Oh, it's much more than a footnote. You really can't separate the philosophy of the flute from the aesthetic history of India. The flute acts as a conductor, you could say, for Indian aesthetics.
Okay, give me the concrete examples. The outline mentioned visual art, specifically Kangaroo paintings. I looked these up, and they are these incredibly detailed, colorful scenes from the Himalayan foothills. But how does a painting relate to a flute?
Look at the lines. That's the key. If you look at Western art from the same period, say the Renaissance or Neoclassical, there's a lot of geometry, perspective, straight lines, rigid structures.
Sure.
Now look at a Kangra painting. Look at the way the river is painted, or the hem of a sari, or the trees.
Everything is curved. It's very fluid.
It's lyrical. The source suggests that this visual style is a direct translation of the flute's melody into paint, because the flute doesn't jump from note to note in a rigid way, it slides. That slide is called a mean. The painting is trying to capture that mean. There are no sharp corners in the music, so there are no sharp corners in the art.
It's like they were painting the sound waves. That's wild.
And it extends to dance. The source mentions Kathak.
Which is a classical Indian dance form. Very rhythmic.
It is, but watch the upper body. The feet might be doing complex mathematics, but the spine, the arms, the neck, they are winding. They move in spirals.
I see the connection. It's not robotic.
No, a dancer isn't just moving from point A to point B. They are flowing through the space between. They are embodying that breath-like quality of the flute. The instrument literally taught the body how to move.
And obviously, it shaped the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
The bansuri isn't just a folk instrument. It's central to classical music.
It laid the groundwork for the emotional scales, the ragas. And this is important. A raga isn't a song in the Western sense. It's not a 3-minute track with a chorus.
How would you describe it?
It's an emotional atmosphere. A raga is a mood that you inhabit. And the flute is the master of establishing that mood because, again, it can play those microtones between the notes. It can evoke a longing that a piano simply can't because a piano key is either pressed or it isn't. The flute dictates that the aesthetic priority of the culture is emotion and continuity, not just precision.
It's amazing how a metaphor about a hollow stick can branch out into painting, dance, and music theory. It really does seem like the heartbeat idea wasn't an exaggeration.
It shows that when a symbol is powerful enough, it becomes a lens through which a culture sees everything.
Now, speaking of powerful symbols, we have to talk about the story. The source material teased this legend of the forest, and I was reading through the translation of the Bhagavata Purana, and it reads like a screenplay.
It really is cinematic. It's the ultimate demonstration of what we've been discussing.
But I don't want to just summarize it. I want to set the scene, because the contrast is what makes it work. So take us there. What is happening in the forest of Vrindavan before the music starts?
Picture absolute chaos. The source describes a forest that is alive in the most aggressive, biological way possible. It's hot, the Indian summer sun beating down, the air is thick with dust.
And it's loud.
Incredibly loud. You have the screaming of monkeys, the breaking of branches, and biologically, it's a war zone. It's the law of the jungle. You have predators chasing prey.
Survival of the fittest. The lion needs to eat, the deer needs to run.
Exactly. It's a world defined by conflict, fear, and need. Every creature is seeing every other creature as either a threat or a meal. It is a place of total separation.
And into this chaos, Krishna steps in. He doesn't bring a weapon, he doesn't shout, he just lifts the flute to his lips.
And plays.
And this is the part that sounds like magic. What happens?
The transformation is instantaneous. And it's not just that things get quiet. The physics of the forest change. The river, the Yamuna, which is rushing and turbulent, begins to swirl and eddy, appearing to flow backward because it wants to stay near the sound.
And the animals.
This is the key image that painters have depicted for centuries. The cows stop grazing. They stand with ears cocked, mouthfuls of grass half chewed, completely absorbed. But that's the mild part. The source describes lions walking out of the brush, walking right up to the deer.
And the deer don't run.
The deer don't run and the lions don't attack. They sit down next to each other. The source says they forgot their hunger. Think about what that means. The biological imperative, the deepest, most ancient drive of a predator to hunt was suspended.
And the people.
The village women, the gopis, they dropped their chores mid-task. Milk boiling over, houses unlocked. The source says they walked into the forest as if in a trance, drawn by a force stronger than social duty or safety.
Sounds like everything just stopped being what it was.
But not just stopped, it harmonized. The source analyzes this legend and says something very profound. It wasn't just good music. It wasn't just that the lions liked the tune.
Right, it wasn't a concert.
No, it was a frequency that dissolved the concept of the other.
Dissolved the concept of the other. That is a heavy phrase. Break that down for us.
Well, look at the forest before the music. The lion sees the deer as food. The deer sees the lion as death. They are separate. They are others. But when the flute plays, that music is the anahata, that universal flow we talked about.
So they're both tuning into the same thing.
Exactly. The vibration was shared. When you are both tuned into the same absolute frequency, the differences between you, predator, prey, human, animal, become less relevant than the connection you share. It turned enemies into companions through a shared vibration.
So the music didn't just calm them down, it unified them. It reset the baseline of reality, from conflict to connection.
Exactly. It proved, at least in the logic of the myth, that music is the only language capable of doing that. Words often divide us, arguments divide us, but this sound, it bypassed the brain and went straight to the awareness behind it.
That brings us to the so what of this deep dive, because this is a beautiful story from thousands of years ago, and it's a great image, lions sleeping with lambs, But the source material calls this a living legacy.
It does, and I think that's crucial. We aren't just studying a fossil here.
So how is this relevant to us right now, to the listener who might be stuck in traffic or washing dishes? We don't have lions and deer.
Don't we? Think about the noise of our modern forest.
Okay, fair point. We have Twitter fights, deadline stress, the 24-hour news cycle screaming at us.
We have a lot of chaos. We have a lot of predators and prey, metaphorically speaking. We are constantly dividing the world into us versus them, left versus right, my team versus your team. We are living in that pre-music forest full of heat and noise.
So the flute is a reminder.
It's a lesson. The source summarizes the core teaching. Spirituality, and I would argue peace, isn't found in loud declarations.
It's not about who shouts the loudest.
No. It's found in the subtle, haunting notes. It's in the quiet. It's in that frequency that pulls us together rather than driving us apart.
And it comes back to that metaphor of the hollow bamboo.
It does. The flute is the ultimate symbol of human connection. The source reminds us that we are all, in a sense, instruments. We are all waiting for the right breath to make us sing. But we are often too full of our own noise to let it happen.
That is a powerful place to land. It really shifts the perspective from listening to music to being the music.
That's the shift. That's the deep dive.
I want to leave you with something to think about today. We've talked about lions sitting with deer and rivers flowing backward, but I want you to think about your own life.
Your own flute moments.
Exactly. Think about a time when a melody stopped you in your tracks, when a piece of music hit you so hard that for a few minutes you forgot you were angry or stressed or hungry. You just were.
Those moments are rare, but they are real.
They are. But here's the provocative thought to take with you, based on what we read today. If music is the only language capable of truly dissolving the other, as the source says, what does that say about how we are communicating in our daily lives?
That is the question.
We use so many words, we send so many emails, we hold so many meetings, but are we connecting? Or are we just making noise in the forest?
And are we keeping ourselves hollow enough to let the right melody come through?
That's the challenge. Maybe we need less noise and a little more of that unstruck sound. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one. Keep listening.